Would I be the asshole if I told our parents what my brother has been telling me in confidence? I, 23, have a younger brother Lou, 19, that's in his first few semesters of college. Lou's been regarded as the more academically gifted of the two of us our whole lives. More and more pressure was put on his grades, his classes, his college, the older he got, and the more he continued to prove his intelligence. It was never really his desire to do anything of that sort. He got forced into it by our mother, 54, who herself was a salutatorian of her class and a Temple Law grad. My issues with my mother are for their own post, but I was kind of put to the wayside as a failure when it came to academics, and the pressure hit my brother hard as the younger of us. Nowadays, Lou has little to no motivation to do anything. Not work, not school, nothing. He has no plans in life and no desires to achieve. I'm convinced it's because of our upbringing where everything was forced on him and he's just got tired of trying to find something of his own interest. I worry about him, as I genuinely want him to have nice things in life and marry someone who loves him with all their heart, but I don't know how to help him. We are greatly different individuals, but alike in many ways. I'm aro ace, he's straight. I'm sociable, he's not. I love Transformers, he loves anime. Stuff like that. I worry he'll give up entirely in life. There's so much out there and he would miss it all. Would I be the arsehole if I told our father, 50, a saint of a man who worked too long of hours to see the damage when we were kids, about how my brother feels? I swore I wouldn't, and Lou doesn't want them to know because he thinks it'll all blow up in his face. But this is the same kid who let me dress him in princess clothes and laughed too hard at Transformers Prime with me. I can't watch him fade away in front of my eyes anymore. Lou is contemplating dropping from college, and I'd support him in his endeavors. But he needs a plan for after, you know? Even if y'all think I'd be the arsehole, I need an outside opinion on this. A little bit of context to head off questions. I've tried suggesting therapy. No dice. I've tried giving advice on how to mitigate stress in school, back when I thought that it was just school getting him down. No dice. I'm just lost, and I want to involve someone else here. Edit for clarification, I'm autistic, which unfortunately gives me a very linear line of thinking. Some rather obvious ideas on how to help just haven't occurred to me. Sorry if I sound oblivious. In the comments, info. How do you think your parents are supposed to help? Do you think that he has depression? Do you think he needs therapy? Like, what specifically are you hoping that they can do? OP says, I'm not sure. He sounds depressed, but I don't want to diagnose him. Lou only seems to vent to me, and I don't feel the most equipped to help him. I just know that he needs it in some form. Maybe our father could talk to him, or maybe talk our mother down from being so on his case right now. Another commenter replies, why can't he do these things for himself? He's a man now. It seems like if he wanted their help, he would be asking for it. Also, the differences that you listed between you are tiny. The differences between Transformers and anime? Really? Anyway, being pressured to be academically successful may have nothing to do with the reason that he is checking out mentally. There's a lot of kids who are pressured academically and just tend to do well academically without this happening to them. So it might be helpful to think of those separate things. You don't know that one caused the other unless he is telling you that clearly. In which case, you should edit your post to make that more clear. It's hard to tell whether you're assuming things or he is telling them to you. If he is telling them to your face, you should encourage him to tell his own mother. OP replies, the differences were merely examples, but I'll concede that one wasn't that great. It felt like a lot as a child, but Lou has been telling me that it's our upbringing, and I had an almost identical response reaching college where I just fell off motivationally now that I was finally blank. I had hobbies and things to get me out of it, which he is lacking. He just doesn't want to do anything. Another commenter says, you would be the arsehole. Sorry, I know you want to help him, but telling your father means that his mother will find out and blow up at him, exactly as he expects. This will make things worse, not better. You would be the arsehole, but have a conversation with your dad anyway. Just don't tell him what your brother confided in you. You can point out that you've noticed changes in your brother, you are very concerned, and ask your father's opinion. Don't stay silent. This is a, frankly, dangerous time for your brother. He likely needs mental health help. He doesn't need to throw away everything, but greatly scaling back on tyrant mum's expectations is definitely needed here. And that needs to come from your father. And now, onto the update. Let me start off with an apology for waiting 10 months to update. I, now 24, am in school, wrapping up a degree, suffered a myriad of health problems. I blew out a shoulder twice, 2 kidney stones, etc., took over my lease solo, and more, over the year that completely wiped this post from the forefront. The update. I never ended up saying anything to our parents, as I did agree with many of the comments on the original post that I would have been the asshole if I said anything. I did start asking more pointed questions about how he was doing as of late, since he primarily communicated with them about most things day to day. His roommates were the ones to crack. They told their parents about him rotting about their apartment and skipping classes entirely, who in turn told our parents about the situation. With this, they medically withdrew Lou, now 20, from uni and brought him home to start therapy. He's been diagnosed with depression and has been on a steady regimen of meds. The good news from all of this is that Lou is working for our father, doing well on his meds, has developed an aspiration to become a radiology tech, and has a girl that he's just good friends with. She bought them matching PJ pants. I think this is noteworthy. He's definitely improved since February, when I first posted, and I'm relieved. While we may not be thick as thieves, he's still my brother, and I care deeply for him. Hopefully this positive turnaround is a satisfying ending to the original post. In the comments, hugs to you all. I'm glad he's getting real help. I would take some time to learn from this yourself. You recognize some of the unhealthy things your parents did. Maybe you have other things impacting you too. What are you doing to learn how to maneuver these things more effectively in the future, along with ensuring you don't fall down a hole yourself? Just something to think about. He was pressured because he was the academically gifted one. I doubt you're a slouch yourself, so maybe you underestimate yourself. I'm not saying go stress yourself out, just make sure that you're okay with the way that your life is heading. And OP says, I'm so used to hearing how little I shape up in comparison, but I accredit that to my learning focus being creative pursuits more so than science or math. Thank you. Ah, yes, noteworthy PJs. OP says, oh yeah, pink with capybaras. They're so cutesy, I know he never picked those out. Another commenter says, regardless if it's just friendship or something more, it's great that Lou has someone he's gotten close with, especially while battling depression. I'm glad your parents handled this with the vision of helping Lou and not trying to just fix him as well. Can we please shout out those concerned roommates? Good on them for speaking up. Some people freeze up and don't say anything when they notice because they're not sure if they should. This was fully so lovely. I'm genuinely so happy that OP's brother is able to get help and such good support. What the update doesn't really give us is the mum's reaction to the son leaving school. Not that it truly matters, but I am curious. Look, I took medical leave, and my mum, who was the one that put pressure on me and was working as a social worker at the time, made a lot of comments about how I dropped out. Went back, barely graduated with a degree that I didn't really want. Little sister went to art school, and I was told that I'd need to take care of her one day. Ended up in a bad relationship for about a decade, and now just really figuring things out in my late 30s. So I could picture OP's mum being kinda like that, or I'm just projecting. Probably just that. I guess in the end here, it's a no assholes here judgment. I guess it could be a not the asshole, but that would imply that someone else in this situation is the asshole, which I guess would be the mum, but she didn't factor into the update, so I don't know. Seems like life took a bit of a left turn for OP there, and it's not the end of the world that it wasn't OP themselves reaching out to their parents to do a wellness check. But I guess we can headcanon that if his roommates hadn't done it, it would have been on OP for that wellness check not happening. Luckily, that didn't happen though. I'm just playing devil's advocate there. I think OP did the right thing here though. She offered support without control, and I think that matters a lot. I think some people will overcorrect in situations like this and try to override the person that they are very concerned about, and it leads that person to distancing themselves from someone that's trying to help them. It's kind of like, how do I help someone that doesn't want the help, but I know that if they don't get the help, it's going to end up real bad. And I think staying present, staying communicative with them, and checking up on them in a way that you're not overbearing was the way to do it. Thank you for the post and thank you for the update, OP. Our next post is by user murkyad8476, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for not telling my long-term boyfriend what my soul name is?" Okay, folks, this is a weird one, but hear me out. I am 28 female and live with my long-term boyfriend 29 male. My parents are pagans, and I grew up with all kinds of weird mumbo-jumbo holidays and traditions. I put that in quotes, as many of this stuff is cultural appropriation in my honest opinion. My parents are white hippie people, but I love them. I'm an atheist now, but I am still on good terms with my parents, who love me and respect my own disbeliefs. Anyhow, one of these traditions in my family is that when you have your 16th birthday, you get a soul name. If you're a boy, your father names you. If you're a girl, your mum names you. It's a whole thing with a fire ceremony and whatnot. That soul name, however, is supposed to be a secret with very few exceptions. No one knows it except the parent who gave it to you and yourself. It has to do with some sort of names magic. An exception would be if you get married. Hand fasting. You could tell your partner your soul name as some sort of commitment token. Now I don't really believe in any of this stuff anymore, and I joke with my boyfriend about the weirdness of my pagan childhood memories. Some of it was also cute, and the naming ritual is one of these examples. And I really feel like my mother gave me a very special thing for my 16th birthday with this. I cherish it, especially because my mother said, you know, when you name a baby, you don't really name the person this baby will grow up to be. I want you to have this new name as your soul name because it's so more you. Aww. Now, this recently came up. I told the story to a few friends that we had over for dinner with me and my boyfriend suddenly insisted he wants to know what the name is. I told him I want to keep it a secret, but my boyfriend said, I'm your long-term partner, so you should tell me. Besides that, you don't believe in this stuff anyways. My friends gave us an embarrassed look, and the mood was kind of ruined for the evening. My boyfriend has been salty for the last few days. I don't really know why I don't want to tell him. I'm somewhat embarrassed by the name itself. It's not cringe or racist, it's just a bit weird. So that is part of it, and while he's right that I don't believe in the name magic, it still feels like I'm handing him a chunk of myself, and I'm doing something that cannot be undone. Am I the asshole for not wanting to tell him? In the comments, Le Miserable Muffin says, not the asshole. Is marriage on the table for you guys? Maybe tell him that he can find out if you guys make a long-term commitment to each other, since that was allowed, but you don't need to tell him ever if you don't want. Some people think that partners should tell each other everything, which I don't agree with, but if your boyfriend is one of those people, you guys will have to work it out together. For now, he needs to be respectful of your no and not make you and others uncomfortable by pushing you. OP says, yeah, marriage is on the table, but we didn't do it yet, as in my country, you pay more taxes if you were married. We didn't see a point in getting married so far, but we discussed it. It would make many things easier if we decided to have a child, but with that, we want to wait until we're a bit more financially stable and ready. I don't know. I believe I would have told him the name if it was just the two of us. He knows this story, and when I first told him, he didn't ask about the name. When the friends were over for dinner, it was him who brought it up, as we all kinda discussed weird religious stuff that we did when we were children. So I told the story to the friends because he asked me to. Just to them. First jokingly, but then seriously insist I tell him. I felt a bit off about the whole situation, and I can't really say why, but saying the name in front of my friends felt like exposing something that's supposed to be intimate. Ugh. Maybe I really need to get more of this spiritual shiz out of my system. Someone replies to OP, I think what's throwing you off about this is that he's making fun of and devaluing something that has a lot of meaning in your family. Maybe you don't share the same beliefs as your parents anymore, but you still respect them and their beliefs, and you have fond memories around those rituals. In that way, those past rituals continue to hold meaning and importance to you. Sharing something that is still sacred in your mind with somebody who only wants to join in on the ridicule against your family culture no less, would feel very wrong indeed. Even if you were to share the name, you know that he wouldn't receive the information with the same level of reverence that you did. Telling him would be akin to you joining in a kind of sacrilege, for a lack of a better term. Put simply, much like any conversation about our families, it's one thing for us to criticize our parents, but it's quite another when an outsider does it. Don't tell him your soul name, OP. He doesn't deserve to know it. And FYI, a ritual is a ritual if it has meanings for the people involved. No widespread cultural approval or involvement necessary. Feel free to stop using the air quotes. And now, on to the update. Hello again, everyone. I didn't expect the sheer amount of responses and messages of you all. I cannot answer every one of you individually, so I decided to update you in this way. I showed the post and your responses to my boyfriend, and we had a long talk about it all. With his permission, I can share the following details. My boyfriend, in all honesty, was or is jealous. His own family was very cold and emotionally neglectful, which is why he went no contact with them in his early 20s. They were and are religious too. Some flavor of evangelicals. I will not name the exact congregation, and his struggle to get out of the religion was very different from mine. He has a hard time grasping the fact that my parents really are cool with me no longer taking part in their religion, and he has a hard time understanding that I do not condemn everything they ever did that was connected to their belief system, even if it was weird or objectively bullshit. He has met my parents on many occasions, but in the end, he doesn't trust them like I do, which I understand given his whole upbringing. Humor, morbid curiosity, and cynicism are his ways to deal with his own religious past, but he does understand now, even more than before, that my situation is different. In contrast to him, I do have fond memories of religious and spiritual events of my childhood, which is the root of his jealousy. And he said he wished his parents would have given his very own name more thought, which made me laugh. After reading all of your responses and listening to my concerns, he apologized for being pushy and an asshole about the soul name, and he promised to not ask me about it again. I have not told him either. To those who told us to get married so that I can tell him, we will most likely get married once we really see a point in doing so. As I said, in my country you pay more taxes when you're married, so right now there is no benefit for us to get married. We have plans to have children at some point, and then getting married makes a lot of things easier. We stand firm and say that we don't need a piece of paper to know that we intend to spend our future together while it doesn't give us any benefits. Whether or not I tell him the name once we get married, I will decide when it happens. To those of you who told me to dump him immediately, no, I will not dump him over such a silly fight. And to those of you who messaged me to find Jesus because my soul name is demonic, no thanks. To all of you who came up with hilarious fake soul name suggestions, I love Spider Jenny, the Devourer of Souls, the best, and I will ask my friend who is a D&D Dungeon Master to name an NPC after her. Thank you so much. This was funny to read. Y'all made my day, stay strong, and I wish you all the best. In the comments, insecurity is the silent toxin in so many relationships. You aren't entitled to know every single thing about your partner or possess every part of them. And when some people figure that out, they freak out because they struggle to think of their partner as a whole person and not someone who exists to make them feel better and good about themselves. I'm glad they worked it out, and I hope they've continued to do so. Yeah, I agree with that. But at the same time, I'm still going to project some of my insecurities on this situation. The jealousy and envy are definitely part of it, but I think it doesn't get to the root of why he felt it was okay to publicly embarrass her in front of her friends like that, knowing that he was going to fuck up the vibe. I refuse to believe that he wasn't aware, after spending so much time with OP and with this friend group, that he wasn't going to fuck up the vibe by doing that. I know it's petty, I know it's a nitpick, but I want a fucking apology for that. I'm so serious. You can shit talk your partner in good faith. You can take pot shots where it's like, okay, you're just taking the piss, shut up. That didn't feel the same. If everyone is side-eyeing and no one's going, oh, he's such a joker, look at this fucking guy, then no, that wasn't cool. Seems like a good update. I'm sure the apology came in real life and OP just didn't mention it. So I'm just going to assume, with everything that was given in the post, this conflict was resolved healthily. And yeah, they both grew up with two flavors of devout religious experience, I would say. And his led to no contact with his family. Cannot blame him for that. And for her, I can completely understand why she holds the soul name and things that she experienced in such high regard. Because it's not like she has a bad relationship with her parents as a result of their religious experience and devotion. Sounds like they were good, healthy people regardless. They allowed her to exit the faith without that being a point of contention and shunning. She continues to have a healthy bond with those people despite their beliefs. And those experiences she shared with her parents are fond and loving memories in which if you disrespect that is a shot directly at OP herself as a person. I can definitely see why that hurt so much when he did that. In this context, what he said wasn't funny. I know I'm yapping too much about it, but I feel like there is a difference. Because if I start shitting on his Christian evangelical upbringing and he gets pissy about it, I feel like that would be hypocritical, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think he is so soured by those memories that he would be doubling down on it and being like, yeah, fuck those guys. But it would take that conversation of, I have good ties to these memories, therefore they are sacred. You have bad ties to the memories, therefore it's okay to talk shit about them. Anyway, thanks for the story, thanks for the update, OP. Great stuff. Our next post is by a deleted account, and it's titled, Am I the asshole for shutting off the movie halfway through and making my boyfriend feel bad? So my boyfriend Wyatt and I always watch movies together every time we have off days that end up on the same day, especially since the pandemic. We go back and forth on who picks the movie, but I've noticed that he's usually talking through my movie choices, either pointing out plot holes or just talking down about the movie in one way or another. Wyatt, turn off CinemaSins. Stop it. I never act this way when it's his turn to pick the movie, even if I don't care for it. Like the last movie he chose, The Fountain. I was so confused until halfway through and then bored the rest of the film. But I didn't talk during the movie or constantly dump on it either. And even at the end, when he asked what I thought, I said it was alright, even though I thought the movie wasn't good. It tried to do a bunch of different things all at once, and ended up doing nothing, but he seemed really fond of it, so I didn't want to hurt his feelings. But he doesn't seem to have that mindset when it comes to him watching my picks. I've told him to shush and to just watch the movies, but he just sighs loudly and says they're boring. If I tell him to stop, he gets all huffy and goes totally silent and usually takes his phone out to play a game or to scroll the internet, totally ignoring me in the movie. It really hurts my feelings. And yesterday was my turn to choose again, and I picked a good movie that really hit me hard as a kid. I bawled when I first watched it and still tear up to this day. And I told him this movie was special to me, but he barely got 10 minutes into it before he started up saying it was boring and childish. It's a kid's movie, but that doesn't make it boring. I was getting upset, and before the big part of the movie even got close, I just couldn't take it anymore. I felt like him acting this way during a super important part would ruin the movie for me, maybe forever. So I just got up and turned it off. He asked what I was doing, and I told him that I didn't want to have the movie ruined for me, so it was better if I just turn it off. He said that I was being a baby and to turn it back on. I refused and just told him to pick something to watch instead, and then I sat on the couch. He got mad and said that if I was going to be dramatic like this, then he didn't want to watch anything with me, and got up and went to his room and slammed the door. This happened the other day, and he's been giving me the cold shoulder, and when I asked why, he said he wants an apology for making him feel like dirt. Should I apologize? Did I really make a huge deal out of just a movie? Am I the asshole? I've gotten a lot of comments and instant messages asking what the movie I chose was. It was The Bridge to Terabithia. It's not the best movie ever, but it was the first kids movie that I watched when I was young that really moved me and made me cry. Me when I'm watching a fun kids movie and then I'm fucking traumatized? In the comments, Lurking Entropy says, "Not the asshole." I can't really say what I want to without violating some of the rules here about being civil, so I'll just say that he's treating you like crap. From how he's acting, your movies are garbage and he gets to rag on them as much as he wants, or else you are being childish, yet you don't do the same back. That's not a basis for a loving relationship if he disrespects you that much, and that easily. OP replies, "It definitely hurts, but they're just movies, and they shouldn't affect me this much. My sister says I'm being too sensitive again, and that I shouldn't let him not liking my movies affect me this much." Someone replies to OP, "Should doesn't exist, OP. It's just a projection. It does affect you this much, and that's valid. Your hurt is real. Put the effort there, not into the voice of should." Sinjari says, "Not the asshole." It's understandable you're annoyed, and even more so that you didn't want an important and special movie to be ruined by his commentary and making you feel worse. For a guy that likes to bash children's movies, he seems awfully childish. Have you tried talking to him about how it makes you feel when he does that? Would it help? OP says, "I've talked to him before about it, and he'll usually say that he'll try to give my stuff a chance, and he does for a bit before he forgets or something and goes right back to how he was before." Not the asshole. Pretty clear that you're trying to be respectful, and he's not. Won't comment further on that. I will recommend moving away from I pick or you pick because it causes this situation. Polarizing movies that resonate with a certain type of person. I suggest you come to a movie decision together. Not only does this meet both your needs, you might enjoy a movie that is outside of your comfort zone but straddles the line of things you like. OP says, "We've tried that, but he usually dominated the movie choice unintentionally. So we moved to each pick movies that we like so we'd each get a choice." Drink Deep replies, "Hate to say it, but sounds like this is a bigger problem than picking a movie." And now, onto the update. Hey, final question mark edit? So I ended up having to call my parents, who called the cops on Wyatt. I read all the advice from everyone saying he wasn't respecting my interests or me as a person, and it got me thinking, and stuff that I ignored or overlooked before started popping out to me. Stuff that didn't seem fair to me that I just put up with because I loved him. And so many people told me to just break up with him, and I could do better. But I was in love, and he was my first serious boyfriend, and I really just wanted to work things out and get through this thing with him. So I tried to sit down and have a serious talk with him, just hoping he would listen this time. I told him how the way he acted made me feel, and his behavior during my movie choices ruined the experience for me, and I told him I never act that way during his movies because I know he likes them, and I respect him, and I don't want to be mean or belittle his interests, even if they don't interest me. And then he told me that I was being dramatic again, and they were just stupid movies, and he tried excusing his behavior by saying my movie choices suck anyways. I was just so tired by this point and wanted some space and quiet to think about where we go from here, so I started to ask him to go back to his apartment for the night, but he interrupted me by yelling how since I couldn't have my way, I was kicking him out. It really scared me because he'd never screamed at me before. Even when he'd raise his voice during arguments, he never full-on screamed at me. I tried to get him to calm down, but he started calling me a bunch of nasty stuff and even backed me up against a wall and grabbed my bicep hard enough to bruise, which I saw later. I panicked and ran to the bathroom and locked it behind me. He banged on the door, telling me to come out, and I was crying and couldn't think of anything else to do but call my parents. Mum answered, and she could hear him screaming and the banging in the background. Her and Dad freaked out, and Dad called the cops. Long story short, the cops and my folks showed up, and Wyatt was removed from my apartment, and my parents told him not to come back or we would get a restraining order. It's almost 10:30 p.m. now, and I've locked my apartment up, and I'm currently staying with my mum and dad for a while. Thanks for the advice, everyone, but Wyatt and I are pretty much over, and I think I'm done with this account and I'll be logging off now. In the comments, 25 and 38? No woman his own age would tolerate his bullshit, I'm sure. Guy's 13 years older than her and acts like a deranged toddler. Stories like this are why age gaps tend to be red flags. Damn, that escalated very quickly. OP dodged a nuke. 100%. And this is why it's important not to overlook all the small stuff without at least discussing boundaries and feelings. They often add up to highlight a much larger problem. Unfortunately, society has trained women into ignoring red flags like that because if you love someone, there are some things that you have to overlook. And that's why it's good to have these stories as a constant reminder of what to and not to accept in a partner. Pattern recognition, guys. Because if my partner disrespected my passionate feelings about 8 Below, I don't think that I could stay with them. I'll be honest, I completely missed the age gap thing there. I was so locked in on the story. Wow, yeah, no. The age gap remains another big red flag that a lot of people are just like, hey man, no one else his age wants to date him, and I'm not going to question that. He seems like a chill guy. Maybe that's just their loss. Hell no, look what happened. He just turned up the heat slowly over time to the point where his control over the movie choices and his childish behavior turned into him just full-on physically assaulting you like this. That's what happens with people like this. Man or woman, it is possible. Obviously, it's not just men that do this and can do this. Glad that OP took the advice of the comments, started thinking about what she had just been looking over in the relationship and what became completely unacceptable behavior for her in an instant. Thank you for the story and thank you for the update, OP. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.